bit about your role at Lookout and what your team does?
Sure. So I'm on a team. Uh, Basically, it's an apps research team. So I'm part of an umbrella that is specifically responsible for research with like a little bit of software engineering thrown in. We look at different malware applications. We look at different mobile applications and try to discern if they actually are malware. We also build out tools that help us with this research. So it's kind of a few different areas that all center around malware analysis and building out coverage for our antivirus application.
So, what people are really interested in is like, what does a typical day look like? So, last week, what are some of the things specifically that you did that you
Mhm.
can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So every day is a little bit different, which is one of the things I love about what we do. You're kind of always doing something new, which is very exciting. So last week I did a few different things. I was covering some stalkerware, which is essentially a classification for applications that are usually commercially available. So you can buy them off the internet, and they're often installed into a spouse or family member's phone as a way to kind of keep tabs on what they're doing. And it's unfortunately incredibly prevalent in society. It's a big issue right now, and especially with domestic abuse cases. And
Yes.
so yeah, it's pretty disturbing actually how common it is
Is that right?
and how readily available they are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my part of my day was spent looking through various applications that we identified as stalkerware, and they're essentially these commercial apps that you can use to collect text messages, depending on whether the device has root access. Other messages that were sent through various accounts, like I don't know, say WhatsApp or
Yeah.
Facebook, third-party messaging applications, essentially, audio, location access, where the person was going,
Right.
contacts, caller activity, basically running the whole gamut of what's available on your device that can be exfiltrated out to whoever is using this application.
Wow.
So part of my day was looking through these samples, figuring out, are these applications truly part of stalkerware? Sometimes, if you have an application that can be sold as like a safety app, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily hiding its icon. It's not necessarily presenting itself as hidden from the user. That might not really be classified as stalkerware.
Yeah.
So looking through these various samples and trying to find different ways that we can indicate to a device that might have the application on it that, hey, you've got one of these bad guys. Let's notify the user and make sure that there's coverage in place.
Wow.
So that was one of the main tasks for a couple of days last week. And then also looking at some malicious software development kits or software development kits, SDKs that can
Yeah.
be used in a malicious way. So they
Huh.
may not actually, set out to collect too much information about a
Yeah.
device, but we still want to be able to detect them and kind of use them for internal research. So I was building out some coverage for those within our internal tooling.
What is the hardest part about the work that you do? What's the hardest part about the
Ooh,
work?
that's a great question. Um, so I think the hardest part can be, I guess, confidence in what you're reviewing. It can be quite difficult to convict an application as malicious, even when you're incredibly certain of it. If it's a larger corporation that is maybe publicly traded and has a very large legal team, and you don't want to get your company or yourself in trouble, it can really test your confidence about whether the malicious activity you're seeing is accurate, if what they're claiming is perhaps true. And it's really kind of like diving deep, believing in yourself, leaning on
Yes.
your team for reassurance,
Yes.
and just kind of following your convictions that your brain isn't leading you astray.
Yes. Yes. And Christina, I know you and your team members are, I was going to say nationally recognized, but you're globally recognized for the work and the threats that you have come up with and the work that you've done. I mean, your speaking engagements, I don't know how you all sleep at night because you're so busy. I mean, there's no rest for you all. You're on the circuit all the time because of your amazing work. When you look at when you talk to candidates and
Thank
think
you.
about candidates interested in getting into this field, what would you recommend for someone starting out? Like, what advice do you have for someone
Mhm.
who's interested in your field?
Ooh, I love this question because I had this question a few years ago. So the thing I would most recommend is start learning on your own.
Oh,
Um, I know that can feel really intimidating, but there are so many resources available. If you do a Google search for any area of cybersecurity you're interested in, you will find a YouTube video or a tutorial or a book, something to get you started.
yeah,
Um, from there, doing some little side projects is incredibly helpful, but also reaching out to potential mentors. So I would say if you see somebody on Twitter that's doing the job that you really want to have, try and reach out and say, hey, I'm really interested in this. I would love some advice. Can you point me towards some resources or tell me how you got into this? What did you do? I'd love to basically follow the same path. And I would say that 99% of the time, people will be more than happy to tell you how they got to where they are because they
yeah,
were in the exact same position, 5, 10, 15, however many years ago.
yeah.
So I would say those two steps can be absolutely invaluable in getting into this industry. Doing some side projects or starting your own personal research projects on the area you're interested in and reaching out for mentorship.
That's fantastic, fantastic. And just one follow-up question. Throughout the day, I've had attendees ask me about what characteristics or traits do you look for? I know you guys have a couple of openings right now for researchers. What are a couple of not technical skills, but actual
Right.
how they do their work? What do you look for in a candidate? What's important?
So I think problem solving and the ability to stick with a problem and sort of see it through to the end is something that's incredibly valuable. I mean, sometimes we're looking at stuff that is so obfuscated, they've hidden every kind of nugget of information they can, and you really have to stare at it and piece through it and follow all of the tedious steps to figure out exactly what's happening in this application. And the same applies for any kind of software engineering work that we do, even just scripting a quick tool to help you with your work. Sometimes a bloody comma can leave you staring at your script for 3 hours, not sure, not being able to figure out why it's broken. So persistence, patience, and problem solving did not mean for that to be alliteration, but it worked out
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Those are very important skills.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. I
Of
know the
course.
incredible work that your team does and the work that you do. You guys are the heart and soul of our amazing product. So thank you and enjoy the rest of the session. In another minute, we are going to be joined by Victoria Mosby, who is part of our sales engineering organization, and she is going to talk to us about what it's like to be a sales engineer at Lookout. And so thank you again, Kristina.